Hello there, this is Mr. Brass, and today we're going to be going over the tale of Johann Kepler. Johann Kepler was a late 16th century German astronomer who is known for his role in the 17th century scientific revolution. His eyesight had suffered from an illness when he was a child, and thus his scientific research was hampered to a degree. Kepler was always a very devoutly religious man, and after overcoming the more poor state of his family by winning a scholarship, he'd eventually go to the University of Tübingen with the desire to express his faith as a priest. Kepler, while being a follower of Luther, found himself not agreeing to all the doctrines of the church, which made him unwelcomed in both Catholic and Lutheran circles, although he would spend his time working under Catholic rulers. His disagreements would make him not want to study theology. His research reflected his faith as he believed the structure of the heavens had to reflect the divinity of God, which could be revealed through geometry. Kepler's first book, The Mystery of the Universe, exposed some of his views on the universe. He put the sun at the center and the planets around the sun, with the orbits determined by 5 basic solids, that being cube, tetrahedron, octahedron, isohedron, and dodecahedron, which provided a neat layout to show God's providence. Kepler was a perfectionist, though, and seen errors in his work which made the model not good enough. Even his best model was off by 8 minutes of the arc, which was not good for him as he felt it had to perfectly reflect God. He would work in an unenjoyable relationship with Tycho Brahe, who had at the time obtained decades of observations at the time of their relationship. They would work together for around 6 months before Tycho died, and his family would still pester Kepler for money so that Kepler could use Tycho's observations. Kepler would still publish the book Rudolphian Planetary Tables in spite of their pestering. At the time of the 16th century, many natural philosophers of the day had embraced a defeatist attitude, as the supernova of 1572 defeated the ancient Greek axiom of the immutability of the heavens, and the other 2 axioms were just seen as untrue as well. Kepler wouldn't have had this defeatism due to his religious beliefs, as he believed that the heavens had declared the glory of God and that God didn't make mistakes. After much work, he would find how the planets moved and came up with what we now call Kepler's laws, which consist of 3 rules. That the period of the time an orbit takes is related to its size, the orbits are eclipses, and the axis of an orbit sweeps through a uniform area. Those are the laws. Kepler was such a devout man that it was hard to read his science work, as he seen science as a religious duty and wrote his science in a theological language. Kepler, however, was right and did find the planetary movements because of his faith in God's providence. Kepler's law really wouldn't be considered mainstream until he published the new astronomical tables of planetary positions, which were considered very accurate and above all other tables of the day. Magic became lessened as the 17th century drowned in, as it made laud plausible. Protestants had become skeptical of religious miracles, and Catholics were worried about how the Hermetic corpus was creating heretical ideas. Witch trials reflected a decline in the belief in magic, as people no longer perceived as people gained magic on their own, but rather that they saw them as people possessed by Satan. As many as 60,000 people died over 200 years over the whole witchcraft phase. The magical overview wasn't providing testable answers to them, and people separated numerology from its practical mathematics. Kepler would swat away a lot of the magical thought himself. Kepler also solved a central problem in optics. It was believed that the only non-reflected rays hitting the eye head-on were the ones that contributed to what we see, but Kepler amended the theory to what we believe today, aka that lens in the eye bend all rays from a particular point, so they all ended up at the same spot on the retina. He also realized that we actually see everything upside down, but our brain flips it as we see it on our retinas. Sadly, life would take a hard turn for Kepler after his discoveries. His 3 kids caught smallpox, with his 6-year-old son dying from it. His wife would die months later, and he'd have to defend his mother against charges of witchcraft. He would die at the age of 59. Well, that is all for today. This is Mr. Brass saying goodbye and get wise.